We live.
Yeah, I think we're live.
Yep, there it
Awesome.
is.
Folks, we thank you for joining us. If you're joining us, this is Between Two Shows, 12.5, 12 and a half. Before we get started, like I've told you before, be sure the best way to help us, if you like what we're doing, is to download, subscribe, and share the content that we put together for you. I am Jay, and as usual, I'm here with the beautiful Becca Buttons, and we are finally here, set up in a tiny corner in Caddy's Whiskey Tavern. Today, we are joined, as usual, again by Bill the Minerals Inc., as we do on Between Two Shows. Bill, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Can't complain.
I imagine we usually ask you how the weather's going in Anchorage, Alaska. Over the last 3 weeks, how's it been for you?
Hasn't been too bad. We actually haven't gotten a lot of snow. It's been hovering around like the mid to low 30s. However, starting today and going into this week, I think our high might not even get over 10. And then we're supposed to probably get a bunch of snow into the weekend and next weekend or next week. So we'll see. But it's about to get cold as shit for the next few days.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
sounds
like
sounds about time it's going to start getting miserable. And from what I hear, everybody there, they it's not the cold that's as bad as the dark. Just being dark all the time and the cold doesn't help.
Um, I could see it more for probably some people who work inside. Like if you work at Walmart or like Costco or even in like an office building and you got like an inside cubicle, I could see it. Me, it doesn't bother me because I'm outside when the sun rises. And then when I get off work and drive home, the sun's still up. And then as I sit inside here at night, the sun goes down. So it's not as bad for me. I get sunlight all day at work though. But if you were inside, I could see because you would probably get to work, it'd be dark, you'd be inside all day, you'd get off work 8 hours later, and it'd probably be dark depending on what time you went in and got off. That sucked.
What are your work hours being in maintenance and the
We work
cold and the
7:30 to 3:30,
so
and
that's
we
just
are
like the dark.
outside for pretty much all day.
Ugh.
Yep.
I know here it's been the last few days. It's been cold and wet. And folks, if you didn't know, we are set up here in Caddy's, Houston, Texas, and it's been pretty grody and wet here. The last couple days, yesterday and today, yesterday afternoon and today were absolutely beautiful. We just had a show meeting, folks, and Bill, you'd mentioned that here in the next, I guess, 3 weeks or so, you were headed for some sunnier weather for the holidays.
And to Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, Alabama for the
Bill the
holiday.
Minerals ain't gonna be down here in the southeast. Well, I'm not even in the southeast. He's gonna be further east than I,
Yeah, you're
actually.
just straight south now.
Yeah, we'll be in the same time zone though.
Yeah, yeah, they're on Central.
It's we were checking in our during our show meeting that we had just a little bit ago. Actually, we rolled right out of that show meeting. Chef Will was part of that. Donnie B was there, of course. Buttons and the Mineral and I. I forgot where I was going with that. But oh, we were talking about how that's only about 10 hours away, and how cool. I wish we could. There's just no way to make promises. Buttons and I have a son who's not really sure where it is that he's going for his Christmas break, so that's gonna, I think, dictate a lot. Buttons, you look like you had something to say.
I was listening to you.
Oh, you lean towards your mic like you had something to say.
No, if I don't do that, then I forget to do it when I do go to say something. So figured I'd just be ready if I had something to say.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to lean in. You don't have to lean into your mic. Well, anyhow, how many days will you be in Alabama?
I arrive the morning of the 20th, and I fly out like the afternoon of the 31st, or the evening of the 31st.
Wow, getting you a good bit of time off there from
Yeah,
Anchorage Golf Course.
and I believe paid, which is nice.
Good. Well, I do want to let our folks know that we are dropping some news later in the show. Of course, we discussed it in our show meeting, but it's some news that you guys and the rest of our listeners have been waiting. At least we think you've been waiting to hear from us, and we're gonna let you know at the end of this show, between two shows. But I can't pass up the opportunity to brag that I have won my first pick'ems out of the history of this show, the whole
About time.
few month history of this show. I have won my first pick'ems. Buttons, if you wouldn't mind sliding over and letting everybody see our pick'ems board. Right over there on the left, we have our episode 12 pick'em. Standing J, Buttons, Donnie B, the Mineral coming in fourth. That's kind of out of the element for him.
Yeah, that hurts.
I think it's fair enough, and I kind of did this on my own, Bill, but I think when we don't have a guest, because we have a guest spot for pick'ems, and because we do a point system based on, a season point system, is that if there's not a guest, they automatically get the fifth place spot, which is 0 points.
Yeah.
And
They
that
didn't
way
do
the
that, you're
loser
right.
maintains a -1.
Yeah, they didn't. Wait, what? I get -1?
Huh?
Does that mean I get -1 this week?
No, Chef got -1.
Oh, Chef was last. Okay.
Yep, you drug in a point. So
Yeah,
if we don't have a guest, the guest will always fill the fifth place spot, which is 0 points. That way the loser can still feel like a loser at the end of the day.
Yeah, the loser definitely needs to feel like a loser.
So if I cut back over for a moment and we look at our board there, I need to do some camera adjustment. So the Caddies Cup, the Caddies Cup stands after episode 12. We're looking at Buttons at the top with 12 points. Donnie B in second with 10 points. My first place, which racked me in 4 points, puts me at 7 in the Caddies Cup, taking me 1 point above the Mineral. That's the only jump in Caddies Cup points, was me taking over the third place spot, and then Chef Will down in. He is definitely in the black. He's not in red numbers, but he is down there just above our guest with 1 point. Our guest has 0. So I did have to brag about that. Everybody except for Chef are multiple winners. Everybody has won at least 2, except for myself and Chef. Now I join the ranks with Chef. We have one win in pick'ems, and I wear that one with pride. And I'll tell you, I bet against my Gators, and you don't know. I couldn't have told you before that game. I couldn't have told you what I wanted more. I couldn't have told you if I wanted my Gators to beat the Seminoles more, or if I wanted Florida State to win more. Just so, because that pretty much, that and the tiebreaker sealed my win.
I can safely say if you would have asked me first on that pick, I would have went Florida State. But since you went first and you picked Florida State, I had to go Florida just in case if Florida did win, then I could be like, you should have picked your boys. That's what you get for going against your team. So otherwise, I was going to pick Florida State in that game, but you made me switch because you picked first.
Wow, just there you go, folks. How Pick'ems can just it can
And
looking at
I shouldn't have let my hatred for the Cowboys get in the way of that too. And I went, and Danny Dimes is an ex Duke Blue Devil, so I always root for Danny Dimes and the Giants. Well, not so much the Giants, but I root for Danny. But yeah, I gotta stop letting things like that get in the way.
I'd like to know that Justin Carlton was watching right now, and I don't know that he is. He's probably not, but he was talking a lot of trash this week about how he was going to handle you in fantasy football. I'm calling him out, and I call him out because he's our next guest on the show. But he was also in kind of the conversation of lining up his guest spot. He was talking about how much he was going to handle the mineral in fantasy football, and then when I checked it here just before we started our meeting,
Yeah, I think someone got a good smackdown put on them.
yeah, I think someone's getting a pretty good smackdown. And Bill, I gotta say, in the last episode, it's on record. It's on record me saying that I didn't see you taking the ring. Okay, but I will say the last couple weeks, your play, sir, has been exquisite.
Last week was a fluke. Yeah, I'm
But
going for it, man.
this week, you're handling. I mean, it's one of the top matchups. It's we have, what was it, 4 8-4 teams going into this
Eight
week,
and three. We're both
and
8 and
they
3
would all
right
match
now.
up against each other. And I think Bald and Angry is doing a pretty good number on our boy Jason. But you're actually handling the Fat Point Reds, who I actually had in my uh, in my projections. I had Fat Point taking the ring at the end of this. But you showing the Fat Point Reds that he need not fire the tongue on Monday.
Jason still has 3 players left.
When is that over? Like, when will we know who the winner is?
Well, we're in week 12. Is that right?
So 2 more weeks.
We have 2 more weeks of
Regular season.
play, and then
2 weeks.
2 weeks of playoffs.
Yeah, so 4 more weeks. So we have next week and then the following week in regular season, and then it's just a 2 rounds, just a semifinal and a final, a top 4. So I still like my top 4 seeds, which I believe again was you, the Fat Point Reds, Bald and Angry, and the Bradford Bogies. I still like that. I still like that going in too, but the comeback last week and then this week, you're handling one of the top teams in the league like they're nothing. And he was pretty confident. I was pretty confident in him this week. You're showing otherwise. So good for you.
Thank you.
I know you don't like following the standings throughout the season. You just kind of play and you play it game by game, just like golf should be played, shot by shot. It's just one shot at a time. That's kind of how you don't look at the scoreboard, don't look at the scorecard. Just shot by shot, write the score down, move on. It's kind of how you're playing fantasy football, and it's working out for you.
I mean, even in NFL, just take it matchup by matchup. Look at who your matchup is next week. Figure out your best players. Look at the waiver wire. Check out who's available, what's going on, and Hope you made the right picks.
The last couple of weeks have had some pretty interesting upsets. If you haven't followed, if you get a chance, go back and look. There have been some pretty interesting how things have played out, especially last week. Last week was pretty weird.
And I even could have scored more points on him if I would have made better moves.
Buttons, and it would take really your worlds falling apart. At least you top three, your worlds really need to fall apart. But Buttons, her schedule, kind of coming up, kind of dictates if she wins out that she might be in that fourth seed as well. But things just have to play like they are. I'm actually going to go to Buttons, and I want to talk about, like we do on every Between Two Shows, I kind of want to know everybody's thoughts on the last show, what they thought. Buttons, if I can start with you, what do you think about
About the last show?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was good. One of the better ones. It felt very in sync, flowy.
I would agree that the flow of the show was definitely, and it was a natural too when I was listening and editing everything down, and I always go back and listen and take out. Sometimes we ramble on beyond what I think people want to hear, and just try to give them and narrow the show down, because our recordings, folks, are usually, at least 2 hours long. Sometimes even longer than that. And we know that as much as we love having the conversation, that you're probably not as engaged in listening to it without having part in it. But the last one, it was almost, even the recording was flowed and moved quickly. Or it wasn't even quickly, it was just effortless, not too fast, not too slow. Just we got through it. We moved on. The editing was real simple. And if anybody didn't notice, between recording and release was less than 24 hours. I was able to record and release that show within 24 hours. That's how just the cohesion between all of us worked. And then, of course, I think a lot of it was having that, the music, the Spotify underrated, having that ready, having kind of things ready to go. And usually the longest part of it, Bill, when we're sitting down and doing these edits, is listening to the recording again and taking out the things where we started over, and I stumbled across the download, subscribe, share, and I need to start that over. It's making sure that we catch those and everything's listening to. And then if some of our folk, I'd be willing to bet that most of the people who do listen to this show don't listen to the end through the closing and hear the little gems that we put there in the end there.
They probably don't.
But, I mean, trying to find that gem, listening through the recordings and trying to find that gem, and then just taking out, you guys are y'all probably know on BTS that I say a lot. And that's because I take a lot of them out of our show. And we all have things that I take out. Donnie says, like and okay. He says those a lot. Me, Bill, we is our thing.
Yeah.
That's about all the clipping I do as far as people. Little things is me, Donnie, and Bill. Me and Bill with the uhs. Donnie has a list of things that he says over and over. We were listening to the recording of the last one, and Donnie just doesn't. Donnie listens. And then he asked the question that you just asked, So when we were playing the game, when we were playing Buttons' game, God, what was the top albums in the U.S. or something like that, and she was very clear. She said
Yeah.
the top, in the U.S., not international, not across the world, in the U.S. And he says, "Oh, the top so and so." Yes, Donnie, the top so and so in the U.S. Okay,
Same with the show.
and just in the U.S., right?
Same with the whole thing with the show, the TV show. He kept asking questions about the show.
I love it, and I mean, I don't have Donnie on here to watch him stumble through those things, but it's kind of that. I know Donnie, and half of the time he's thinking about staining his house while he's recording.
Mhm.
Right, he's recording an episode. He's thinking about putting grandkids to bed or whatever. So, or usually when we're recording a show, he's staring up at the TV that's above his desk. Because we record on Saturdays. We generally record on Saturdays, always on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday. So
Yeah,
when
he's
we're
watching football.
recording, folks, he's usually got his phone propped up on his table, and we can usually see his foot, because he props his phone up on the same device that he's rests his foot on, and he's got a TV up above it. And so we watch Donnie basically. This is basically him all night with his foot right here in the camera.
And then doesn't hear what we're talking about or whatever. So yeah.
Oh, did you mean
the same.
in the U.S.?
Yes. Yeah. Things
Yeah.
like that. Amazing guy.
Bill, you've had a chance to. I'm kind of upset that Jay. I'm sorry. Donnie. I'm kind of upset that Donnie doesn't listen as often, and I hate throwing him under the bus there, but there's him and Chef Will doesn't listen as well, or they didn't listen to the last one.
Yeah.
Actually, I take that back. Donnie did listen to the last one, because he texted me and said that Nadine listened, and she actually really enjoyed this last show.
Nice.
Believe it or not, yeah, which I thought was a kind of a cool.
This very last one?
Yeah, if we got
The one that you just put out?
Uh-huh.
What?
Yeah, if she enjoyed it, then it really was a good show. But
Pretty good.
Chef Will didn't listen to which that doesn't surprise me. Chef Will doesn't. I wanted to let Chef know that we played his little message on the show, and he had sent me that message literally minutes before we started the show, and I just was able to. I had it in a form that I could just put it while we were talking, and I wanted to let him know that I was able to do that and didn't have to edit it in later, so you guys got to hear it. And I asked Chef when I talked to
He
him.
didn't listen to it.
He said he doesn't. He said he didn't listen.
Like, really, you can't even put it on kitchen while you're driving around? I mean,
Yeah,
come on, man.
I mean it's your own. I don't know. It's your own people.
You got a Monday morning quarterback yourself.
I do kind of have a little bit of a bone to pick with Chef, because we told Chef that we wanted when we were coming to Caddy's Houston, that he kind of needed to call ahead and let us know that we'd be setting up here, and the corner that they have us in is just so damn tight. So we have a little bit of a bone to pick with Chef.
Mm-hmm.
Come our show, but we're gonna wait till showtime before we give him hell for that.
What's the big news we were announcing?
Buttons is already asking me about the news that we're announcing. The news that we're announcing is the promise that we've made to listeners that we were going to do a certain thing, and we've yet to even kind of do details on it. And I'm glad Buttons has got me. Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Buttons.
No,
and
no,
the mineral.
No.
Yes, Buttons on releasing the news.
What news?
The big news that we told everybody today that there was going to be big
I asked
news
you about big
that
news.
they were going to catch here. All right, she's
Cooking
counting
show.
on that. The cooking show. Yes, the cooking show.
December 10th? No. When are we doing it?
Well, folks, we know we promised this show live, and there was we just don't see any way of doing this efficiently and bringing you. It's just really a nightmare. So what we've promised to do is we're gonna put together our cooking show as we've promised. Sorry, it's not gonna be live, but we are going to have you something before Christmas. Before Christmas, we are going in the format of how it will be is not really competition. We didn't want it to that just it didn't seem right. So we're
That's
just
not
gonna
really any good
enjoy
way to do
it and have fun with it. See what everybody's made of in the kitchen.
We can take prop bets on who's the first person to burn something.
We could actually have all kinds of.
That's not fair.
Who's first person to cut themselves?
Yeah, that's not a bad. That's not. It'd be in
Well,
pick'ems.
I don't do that
We can
stuff
put
in
them
the
in
kitchen,
pick'ems.
so.
I don't know. Cameras on, pressure's on.
Cameras on, pressure's on. Do you have someone that can help you with your filming, Mineral?
I could probably ask someone.
Because I
I'm
know that.
going to set it up in the kitchen and angle it at a good angle, so it kind of got me and camera, the kitchen and everything. I don't have a very big kitchen. It's not hard to get the whole thing in it.
On this end, there's a good chance it's probably going to be me just trying to keep the show organized and producing the show, and Buttons will probably be doing a good bit of the cooking.
I'll be doing it all, probably. Cooking.
Chef Will, I imagine
okay with
Chef
that.
Will have someone employed to at least hold the camera, so depending on
think
what he does, yeah, there's no telling. So,
Yeah.
and Donnie B will probably show up. Knowing Donnie B, he's going to show up with Publix fried chicken. No matter what the rules and the parameters of the game are going to be, he's going to show up with something from
Yeah.
Dixie Grill or Brown Lantern.
Or friggin' Little Caesars hot and ready.
I know. I can't believe he goes with the Little Caesars hot and ready over the Shaq-a-Roni.
I can't believe he's never heard of the Shack.
Shout out to Papa John's. BTS not. Oh, there we go. See, folks, we got cable issues. We need to not buy cheap cables in the future. What I was saying is this BTS is not sponsored by Papa John's or Shaq or Shaq-a-Roni. Hey, Bill, not long before we went to, was it Utah? Before we left for Utah, we saw Shaq in one of the,
It was a gas station in Gainesville, Florida.
yeah.
Oh shit.
We have
Yeah.
a regular.
I
We
mean,
have
yeah,
a
it's
regular.
Crazy. He is.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
he's-
you
it,
can't
it's
mess up.
amazing.
we have a regular supplier in Gainesville that has been a dedicated supplier for well over a decade. And we were leaving his house, and we had to stop and use the bathroom and grab cigarettes or something, and maybe some papers or who knows. And before we walk in, this guy comes out and he says, "Hey, Shaq's in there." He just walks up to me like the guy knew me. He's like, "Hey, Shaq's in there." And I'm like, "What? What?"
I was like,
He's
no way.
"Shaq's in there." He's like, "No, what, are you kidding me? Is he really?" He's like, "Yeah, he's in the bathroom right now." And so I'm like, okay. So I go to walk in the store, and this time Shaq's walking out of the bathroom. And he looks at me, and the only thing I can say is, "You're fucking kidding me." And he just kind of looks at me like, "Nope." And there's a Subway. It's one of those where there's a Subway in the gas station, and he walks over to the Subway, and he's got like his handler, getting sandwiches, a You know how if me and you went to Subway, they would give us the probably one sleeve with 2 sandwiches in it, right?
Yeah.
Well, these 2 guys had one of the big that you would put like 8 sandwiches in, the big bag.
Well, you know, he's probably eaten 3 of them.
And then he gets into this
Maybe
jacked
they were
up,
having a party
Ford Dually with neons in the fender well.
with Subway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably about all I could just be saying was, hey, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it
No
was pretty
shit.
wild.
Oh, Shaq, man, he's endorsing everything nowadays.
Yeah, he's almost
He has
every
got
commercial.
he has got his hand in it. And the thing is a lot of these things he's not just endorsing. A lot of these things he has
Yeah, he's part owner and
ownership stake in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not to
and
mention the guy's a cop. He's
NBA
he's so much
announcer.
more than just a big old tall dummy.
Yeah, no, very good businessman.
So, folks, the cooking show coming to you before Christmas. We are also recording a show. Our guest Justin Carlton will be joining us. That show will be recorded this weekend and should come to you within next week and a half or so. So look out for that. Be sure when these we don't release things on a regular basis. So make sure that you are subscribed, that you're following us. That really helps us out. And if you like what we're doing, it lets you know that when we're dropping new stuff, when as rarely as we do. But we do thank you for your time, Buttons. Thank you for your time, The Mineral. Thank you for your time on this BTS. Is there anything you would like to say to our listeners before we let them go?
No, just thank you for downloading, listening, subscribing, putting up with our nonsense and our bullshit. Much appreciated.
For sure.
And it's always a pleasure joining both of you from up here in the cold, dark north.
Buttons, anything you'd like to say to everybody? Happy Thanksgiving to y'all, by the way. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Folks, we thank you for joining us. Keep your subscriber bells lit up. You'll see a show dropping here in the next year and a half. Until the next time, I'm Jay. That's Buttons. That's The Mineral. This has been our show. Y'all have a good night.